Tonight begins from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where President Bola Tinubu has signed 4 tax reform bills into law, a move aimed at providing relief to low-income earners, small businesses and families. The bills, which are the Fair Taxation, Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, Nigeria Revenue Service Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Bill, are expected to unify the country's fragmented tax system, eliminate unnecessary duplications, and reduce bureaucratic hurdles. By promoting transparency and efficiency, these changes seek to restore investor trust and stimulate economic growth, ultimately enhancing the business environment and improving the lives of Nigerians. Uzochukwu Obionu is partner at Tax Regulatory and People's Services, while Babatunde Olaniyi is Associate Director at Tax PwC Nigeria. They both join me for a robust conversation on the tax reforms as assented to by the President. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. The tax reform bill has, there's been a lot of talk about it. They are not in force until 7 months. What's that moratorium for?
Yeah, thank you for. Can you hear me? Just confirm.
Okay.
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me today on the show. The moratorium period is pretty much to align with the Nigerian tax policy of 2017, where it allows a period of 90 days, right, between when a tax law is enacted and when it's actually effective, right? If we look at the transformative impact of the laws that we've just had, where we have 2 tax laws coming in at once, even though we're making some incremental changes with the Finance Act since 2019 under the President Buhari administration, that cannot be compared to the transformative impact of the tax laws, right? And what we're seeing is a period where a lot of taxpayers and also regulators as well, and our government administrators will need some time, right, to digest these rules in order to be able to ensure that the objective of the laws are achieved. On the private sector, we see a lot of businesses, both small, big businesses, even multinationals, need to digest these bills, increase their capabilities, look at their tax strategy, look at their tax administration system in terms of their governance, in terms of their processes, controls, and also things around reporting to their stakeholders to ensure that they actually comply, take advantage of opportunities, and curb any risks that are coming through by ensuring total compliance. So the 7 months will give enough time for them to set their strategy and implement appropriately.
All right, Uzochukwu, in what specific ways do you see the tax reform laws reforming tax administration in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you for the question. And by the way, it's important to state that we need to have the laws fully gazetted, and then we can fully comment on the laws. But commenting on what has been made public and the snippets of the law that we have seen here and there, I'd like to start by saying that one thing that the law clearly does is to, in a sense, bring together a number of moribund laws, and consolidate them into one. So now we have just one law that accounts for all the pieces of legislation scattered everywhere. So if you're looking to do business in Nigeria, you can have one reference point. The law also reduces the number of taxes. We've often complained about the multiplicity of taxes and how inimical that has been to businesses, both within and for foreign investors. The law has done a good job of consolidating the tax laws such that we have a single digit number right now, unlike what we've always had. The law also, in a sense, tries to address the issue of overtaxing a certain category of vulnerable individuals and companies who are just, starting off and trying to find their footing in the business world. So there is some level of protection for such companies such that they do not get to begin to pay taxes until they have crossed certain thresholds. Also, invoices that they raise will not attract withholding taxes until they are of age, essentially. So there is that protection. There is that also looking to do away with moribund provisions of the law and simplifying the law in such a way that it's easy to understand and it's also easy for taxpayers to comply with the provisions of the law. So there are other aspects of the law, bringing in the digital currency into taxation, trying to address issues that border on base erosion and profit shifting. In a sense, it tries to modernize the Nigerian tax law, and we must give credit both to the committee and also to the president for ensuring that this has seen the light of day. As we continue to implement and we notice and observe unintended consequences, those consequences can subsequently be resolved. But the bold step in getting this out, it's very commendable. And like I said, there are a number of areas that it has really, taken the reform agenda into. So we see certainly that there are reforms in critical areas.
Batunde, one question about this law has been about what some called tax justice. That is, those who contribute so little getting more than those who actually give more, especially in the southern states. Does this law level the playing field?
Yes, it does actually, and I would say that it's actually a great day, right, for individuals and also for small companies in Nigeria. We do know that SMEs contribute a great deal to the country's GDP, close to 60%, and also employ close to 80% of our workforce, right? If we look at all over the world, we see that if a huge focus of the revenues come from the high net worth individuals, those that actually have the ability to pay this tax, and also from big companies as well, right? So if I focus on some of the changes that affect individuals in this respect, is we look at the progression that has made the tax impact that has made to the tax bands, and that has made it more progressive, right, to align with the principles of taxation, where if you have an increased ability to pay, right, you pay more than those that do not. And how the law achieves this, it pretty much expands the tax band where individuals that earn between 1.3 million naira annually and below, right, exempts them totally, right, from income tax in Nigeria. And when you get to workers who earn around 20 million and below as well, they would also have their effective tax rate decrease compared to what we have under the current legislation. So we see that over a huge portion of our workforce will either pay no tax compared to what they are paying today, or they will pay less tax compared to what they are paying today. Now, if you look at the tax rates as well, they've also been increased, right? So we now have a top income tax rate for individuals of 25%, right? And by the time we look at how the tax reliefs are also be streamlined, right, we see that a lot of our high net worth individuals would have to pay a little bit more tax, right, to the government coffers. From a company's perspective, right, one of the reasons the tax laws achieves this, it expands the threshold for small companies from 25 million under the old law now to 100 million. What that means is that a lot of the companies that were previously classified as medium companies, right, who had turnover of above 25 billion but less than 100 billion, who used to pay 20% income tax rate, will pay 0% tax rate based on the current law. That also expands the range of companies who will be outside the tax net, who would have more money within their coffers, given the fact that we look at the macroeconomic environment as well, the inflationary pressures, the foreign exchange pressures, right, and how this actually hit on the real value of profit being made by Nigerian companies, right? So the reduction in the income tax rate for low-income earners and also small companies would also help in that respect. Thank you very much.
All right. Also, you could expand a bit. How do these laws help the growing SMEs and those in special need areas of the economy that require to be supported until they mature? The concern some have is that the exemption of small businesses and individuals may risk narrowing the tax base, leading to revenue losses. Your thoughts?
Okay, that's an interesting perspective. And I think the way to look at it is to say, we're all, the government, it's a stakeholder in every small business. It's in the interests of the government that the small businesses survive. It's in the interest of government that they grow. And statistics has it that it's very important that we watch out for these small businesses, especially in the first 5 years of their existence. So what the law has done is to say, look, we will shield you during this period. We'll make it a bit easier for you to do your business without paying taxes. But in return, they will have to register. Now, if you look at it strategically, most of these small businesses, a lot of them are not even in the tax net as of today. So it's not like we're making so much revenue from the very small businesses because they're not even in the tax net. But if you give them the opportunity to say, look, just register, do your business, we will shield you during this period, and perhaps even through other forms of incentives like the types that the Bank of Industry, Smethan, and all of those other agencies are encouraging, then we will have a proper pool of businesses that we know that are in Nigeria. Now, information is very critical to how you ultimately grow your revenue within the tax economy. So as these businesses now transit from small businesses to large corporates, then you have the opportunity to tax them. Right. So you support them when they need you the most, and then give them the opportunity to grow, and then you can harness the tax revenue that will then accrue to the government at that time. So I think it's a strategy that is, I would say, well thought out at this time. Yeah.
But they talk to us about how the zero-rated VAT on essentials will effectively alleviate the cost of living crisis for low-income households.
Yeah, thank you very much. A key focus area for the committee, right, and also for Nigerians was the reforms that will happen with the VAT Act, right? And when we look at the direction of changes that were made, there were considerable efforts targeted towards alleviating the cost for the poor earners in Nigeria, right? Looking at 5 basic areas around our basic needs, right? Starting from food to transportation to health, education, and accommodation, right? And if we look at how one of the fundamental problems we experts have said is an issue with the Nigerian VAT Act is the fact that it isn't really a true VAT Act because there were real limitations around the ability to claim impute VAT, right? And if suppliers, businesses cannot recover those input VATs from their output VAT, they pretty much pass on those costs to the customers in form of price increases, right? And one of the things in which the law has done now is to expand the scope in which the input VAT can be claimed, and that now allows businesses, right, to be able to kind of recover input VAT, particularly when the output is VAT exempt. So take bread, for example, right? Get a bakery who supplies bread, which is exempt, right? But as a result of some of their inputs, be it their packaging materials, nylons, they suffer VAT, right? Under the old law, they couldn't recover that VAT. So that comes and translates into the price of bread to the final consumers by price increases. But what the VAT Act now allows those businesses to do is to be able to claim those VAT, those hidden VAT charges within their value chain, and that hopefully will translate this in the future. Thank you.
Ozachukwu Obienu and Babatunde Olaniyi, thank you for giving us your time tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Taiwo Oyedele is Chairman, Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. He speaks on the assent of the bill by the President.
These reforms are not about raising more taxes. I think people get it wrong. A lot of people, including analysts and commentators, will say, oh, where are they going to get the more taxes from? Nigerians are poor. This is exactly trying to relieve people of the burden of taxes. These tax laws, they are now laws, are pro-poor in particular. More than 1/3 of workers in both the private and public sector will now be exempted completely from PAYE. They will not have to pay personal income tax. Small businesses, over 90% of small and micro nano businesses, we no longer have to worry about paying corporate income tax or charging VAT or even deducting withholding tax or paying PAYE for their employees. What this means is that there will be more money in the hands of the ordinary Nigerian to take care of their daily needs.